the original grade level would be, and the only, that's not the only, but the typical option is just to grind it so that it's smooth and there's no,
Or plus the concrete, take out the roots that are causing the fundamental issue.
That's right.
and re-pour the slab.
At this point, do we think grinding will make it last for some length of time? I mean, is that basically what we're saying?
Grinding should last for quite a while, quite frankly, unless the root, if it's a root that's causing the problem, it'll keep ultimately pushing it back up again.
The one that was ground before was done on, Mary Beth's watch, so, what was that, 4 years ago maybe?
At least.
Yeah, it would have been 4 years ago at the
Yeah,
minimum.
so-
Yeah.
So, 4 years and now it's happened again?
Yeah, they ground some in Matarita when we were in the midst of our argument on turnover. And there was about an inch, maybe a little bit more, height difference between two slabs. And unbeknown to me, I was driving through there one day and somebody come in and ground it down. Which is
That's
their
a typical
typical
way
mode
to
of
do it.
operation, they just did stuff.
Between
in there.
Trieste and Monticello, there's a number of them that have been
Yeah.
ground, simply because the oak trees keep raising it. It's a Band-Aid,
Eventually, we'll
possibly
have
have to do
to
something.
relay the slab. Okay, well, what's,
The people want it,
End of the-
residents
yeah.
want it?
Oh, and something has to be done.
Okay.
really?
If this is the one you're comfortable with, Scott,
Yes.
okay, I'll make a
Well-
motion, we approve it.
I mean, the only other way around this is to replace it.
This is the
What
lower
did we
cost.
pay to replace the slabs on Pelican Preserve Boulevard where the oak tree popped up?
That was over $8,000.
That's what I thought.
Just for that one slab?
No, it
It was
was
a couple. It was a-
18 sections.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Yeah.
included
And then
what
we-
Bob
then
just
we did it
referenced.
also on Ravenna, right?
Correct.
Right,
Yes.
they did about 5 or 6 in the Ravenna area.
But why would we do that on the boulevard and in another neighborhood and then
Collect
grind?
them until we do them all?
Because the spacing, some of the sidewalks were like
Oh,
this.
They couldn't be ground.
They couldn't be ground. They
It was
had to be
almost like a
removed.
roof.
Grinding was the first way of doing it, but these could not be ground because the entire slab was almost out of the ground.
I think ultimately, we're gonna have to start budgeting for sidewalk repairs on a yearly basis
We do.
for the oak trees.
We do, we
Do
do.
we?
budget.
Okay.
We have a motion from Bob that we approve the proposal to grind the sidewalk. Is there a second?
Nancy, you okay with that? I mean, it's your neighborhood.
Yeah, I just, my experience is I don't think grinding will last long enough. And it is very awkward when you walk on it and your foot catches on a different surface.
What's your drug? You want it broken and repoured?
Hmm?
Okay with that. You want the concrete broken and repoured?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, that would be my brother.
I'm okay with that.
Do you think that it needs to be done, this is in several locations, is that right? or-
Yes, it's 12.
Well,
Yes. But when you start replacing concrete slabs, sometimes you have to double them up.
Right.
So this is normally just affecting one slab, so you have a slope, so you don't have that trip hazard.
mhm.
So this may,
Nancy, do you think?
I can go back to the drawing board and have them come out and bid the replacement.
Can we do that? I think I would prefer that. I
I'll
really-
withdraw my motion.
If you walk on, anybody who has those,
Oh, yeah.
ground down, if you walk on it, you can feel the difference.
Oh, yes, you can.
It's a different,
Yeah.
Well, it's one of our oldest neighborhoods too.
Scott, I'm not, I understand concrete to a degree, and I know there's epoxy concrete that you can put on cracks and so forth. Is there a way maybe they can grind and treat it so it is smooth?
Now, what Nancy's talking about is the distance. You put your foot on it, and it's gonna be a gradual slope.
Right.
Instead of, that's not gonna go away.
No.
Except for replacing the slab.
And the epoxies we look ugly on.
Oh, it might, I'm just, I'm not, I don't have the expertise in that. My concern is here, and I'm not opposed to replacing the slab, but replacing the slab is just a bigger Band-Aid than the grinding. The ultimate problem is still the oak tree root that's down there.
But they cut them out when they did it
Okay.
Yeah.
Between Trieste, they went in there and cut those roots
Well,
out.
they did cut some out.
Oh, yeah. They did a good job on it. I watched them every day.
So that, we're assuming that if you get or if you go back to the drawing board, it'll involve trying to do something to prevent it from happening again. In other words, replacing the slab and
Correct.
trying to prevent it from happening again.
Yep.
Steven suggested a root guard. I have no idea what that might cost, but he said we could put root guards around those trees. Once you cut the roots, you put a root guard, it would prevent them from growing back underneath structures.
Makes the roots turn away.
Actually, the landscapers I've worked with, that only really works well when you first plant the tree
Yeah, he
and
said
have the
that
existing root ball.
Yeah, he said that was the best thing to do for a new oak tree, but he said you could try it with an older one. But I don't know, it might be an exorbitant cost too.
Mr. Chairman.
Trudy, did you have something? to
Yeah,
say?
I know this isn't a time to talk, but if you're gonna rebid this out, there may be other neighborhoods that might have some similar issues that are not aware that this might even be an option to look at repairing the sidewalks. So I know in the past, I've been told, unless it's an absolute imminent emergency, nothing's ever gonna be done to the sidewalks. So I and my board have never pursued anything for some of our sidewalks.
You're doing good. Keep it up.
Because this will basically.
However, I'm
exceed
here
the
and I'm
budget.
hearing this, so.
Yeah,
So if we broaden this one job, we're gonna
Oh, yeah,
have
we're
a
gonna,
budget issue. for
you're
the-
gonna go over a budget, yeah.
Yeah.
We had 23,000 in this year's budget for sidewalk repairs,
For 19 or for 18?
for 18. For the year that's ending, we had 23,000.
And we spent how much?
I would have to go home and look that up.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, I was told by, because I brought up our sidewalks a while back, and I was told by, not Scott, but one of his predecessors, that you had to have the CAM come out and measure, and it had to be a greater amount, and then it could be submitted to the CDD for repair, and we've always had a sidewalk repair budget.
It's normally over a quarter of an inch. Anything under a quarter of an inch, that's left for grinding. So,
and so I.
even a half an inch, you can get away with grinding, but when you're popping up 2 inches, no.
Well, some of these are, if not all of them, are greater than a quarter of an inch, and they've been that way for a while.
What I'll do is I'll go back out there with
And get
them.
another one, and let's
and
also find out.
maybe it'll be
where
a combination of
where
both
we stand-
methods.
Where we stand
Yeah.
in the budget. Yeah, it could be that some of them could be reasonably round and others we might have to replace.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll go
so
back
why
to
don't you-
that.
why don't you take
All
a
right,
look at it?
I'll go back to that.
But when we start, we'll finish that whole project, I hope. Once a year set, when,
In our neighborhood.
yeah, the number that are there, we should make sure we do all the sidewalks that need to be repaired.
They were all looked at in that community.
Okay, so I mean, just this, okay, the whole community, so this would take care of the whole community, so we'll.
That neighborhood.
We'll
That
get
neighborhood.
a combination of
That
grinding and replacing
Yes.
slabs.
With 40 feet.
Yeah, just 40 feet.
Okay. Anything further for Scott? Scott, have you anything further for us?
No, I don't.
Trap gate function. Somebody hit it again?
Oh, we always have people hitting the gates.
This wasn't the trap gate, this was the first gate,
Yeah.
not the second gate.
The second gate's wasn't the trash.
Yeah, the
That's
second
the
gate
one
goes.
that-
That's not down.
No, it's the one in the front.
Let's Scott, why don't you, Bob, Scott has information on that I think would be.
The second gate was hit, but it didn't damage the gate at all. The gate was fine.
No, I just saw it laying on the side of the road,
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah, we had a couple problems in the past 24 hours. And in the past month, we've had numerous problems with people getting the gates. So if they're damaged, then they're gonna get a bill from the association.
Yeah, I stopped and asked the guard last night when I came down, I came back from a meeting over here, and he said somebody hit it.
Yeah.
And it was laying on the grass, that's why I asked.
At the president's meeting this morning, somebody brought up the fact that the exit gate sometimes is up, sometimes it's down, and that's what we've agreed to do. But I remember when we were talking budget issues and Sarah was here earlier, she thought it was getting hit more now that we're leaving it up between 8 and 5 every day. Because people get used to it being up and they forget, and they just keep on going. Do we need to maybe revisit that at some point in time, that maybe it should never be left up? If that's one of the things encouraging people to just keep driving through because they think it was up earlier, it should be up now.
That's certainly a way of looking at it.
Yeah, well, Sarah said she thought the.
They can't see
number
the
of
gate, they're
hits-
just gonna
I
keep
know.
buying, as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and Sarah
We-
said specifically, she thought it had been hit more often on the exit gate since we started leaving it up during the day.
My suggestion would be, because we have a similar issue with the question, as you know, Nancy, arose at the President's Council meeting as to why we have an exit gate at all. And so I would suggest that the Safety and Security Work Group will get back to you with a recommendation.
Okay.
I was told people come in that gate and it's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the main reason to have one.
We will,
You can't come in.
we will, the Safety and Security Work Group will review this
And they even use the gate next to the
I mean,
gardens.
we're thinking,
Not the
we're
wide, but
putting up
those-
cameras, and whatever, on the sidewalks
Yeah.
to make sure we have control of the people coming in. Leaving the gate up, those people just walk around in it. I mean.
Well, and I think
Yeah,
that will be, I'm not, yeah,
Okay.
I think that will be a consideration for.
And it's not actually cameras we're putting on the sidewalks, isn't it?
It's
Like
sensors.
a-
It's a
it's
beam. It's a laser.
so that
Laser
guard
beam.
check
Being
and-
that
An intrusion
that
piece.
triggers.
Yeah.
the little
Okay.
thing
What
about
about the
the-
rest of
Wait,
this stuff?
Huh?
Wasn't there more to it?
Well, we decided that was all within
Oh, it's all
within the
part of
budget.
it.
Everything else is in normal budget.
Within the general budget, so we don't have to go through that. Okay, anything else for Scott?
Pleasure.
I'm gonna, I missed something under Nancy's report, which I would like to go back to, and that is the letter to the community concerning assessments.
I don't think it's in here.
Yeah, it is.
And I would open that by saying, I'm the one who's pushed this, I think. I'm open to the idea that maybe we don't want to send one, but I think we should. And I hope people have had a chance to look at Nancy's letter, the one she's proposed, which, helps to explain to the community
Yep, yep.
You found it?
why why their assessments have gone up by $95.
I'm on the fence and I could go either way. My concern is that has enough time elapsed since they got the letter talking about the increase, that we stir the pot again. I mean, I don't get those calls anymore.
Do you?
Hmm?
Are you getting the calls that
I'm not
Nancy's
getting,
talking about?
I'm not getting any calls. But people
I
have.
tell them all to call Nancy.
Which one?
I don't say.
People have not gotten their tax bills yet.
Sure.
They go out in November?
They go out in November.
Well, historically, we put something like this out. each
We
year.
have.
Yeah.
We have.
I think we should.
We did-
I think communication.
We did it last year. I still feel that we ought to put something out.
I agree.
Yeah, I do.
And recognizing that it will raise some questions, but that's what we're here for. We should answer those questions.
And I don't think we were quite clear enough, I mean, it's kind of general, but I don't see any reason to really ascribe where the money's going. It's going because now taking over the wetlands.
Yeah, well, no,
And
the only,
and the newest ponds.
the only thing Nancy mentions in here,
Yeah, I
and
know.
that's part of it, is that we're taking over, Cypress Grove.
But I think we ought to say what it is and say that there won't be any more. This is it. We got it all. We won't be coming back to you again. We got to take it to assets.
I don't know that's true that we won't be coming back to them again though, because what we've discussed this morning at the president's meeting is we have no idea what this irrigation cost is gonna be starting next year.
But that's not for transfer of assets. I'm saying specifically, a transfer of assets from the builder to the community. That's over with this year.
That is over with.
We won't be
We
getting
can,
any
we
more.
can make that statement, but I agree with Nancy, we don't know what we're facing in the next, perhaps a year and a half to 2 years with irrigation and.
City of Fort Myers, recycle water, and all this.
All that stuff.
But right now, we don't know, but we do know exactly what this $95 is.
Yeah.
The vast majority of it is.
Yes.
The majority, a little bit is for just inflationary
Oh,
costs.
sure,
Things
yeah,
won't go
yeah,
up, but that's.
But the meter.
Essentially,
Yeah.
primarily, it is.
And she does say in there that it's a result of the transfer of assets.
Transfer of assets.
So you wanted to add something to
Well,
that?
I just
or-
thought it'd be a little clearer, but
Well,
I'm
I
okay
mean-
with it as it is.
Nancy has a, question in there as to whether we should say something about the election and how that relates to this, and I must admit, I'm a little antsy about that. I'm
So
not
am
sure
I.
this is an
Yeah.
appropriate.
This should not have anything to do with that.
The election, I
Yes.
agree, I
Yes.
think that's not appropriate in this.
The only thing in that one paragraph, I wanted to make sure that I was saying that we were not included in those gateway expenses. Because it do not include any portion of the gateway recreational amenities.
I don't think that ought to be in there,
Take that out. Okay.
because that's a political pitch, that's not.
Well, it isn't unless I say something about the election, but,
Correct.
yeah.
So,
Because,
you,
so just cut it off, just leave the sentence, in addition to these direct costs, the CDD's administrative and operational costs are allocated among all the communities within the CDD, and just leave it there.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so scratch all that.
okay,
A lot of the new residents that are moving in don't have a clue what's going on.
Correct.
And the folks that have been there, old Pelican, they don't want to hear it again.
Right.
But I will say, Joe, all the new people are getting a belly full of it. We're meeting with them constantly and telling them. But that was a political comment, not a bad comment.
Yeah. Any further changes, Nancy? I have a couple of
Typos and stuff.
typos changes, but I'll give them to you.
Okay.
Um,
And then names at the end, we want all of our names with contact information.
That's what we
I
did
think so.
before.
I'm agreeable with that.
I think that's what we did
Sure.
before, and
Sure.
I think they all would be there.
Do we want emails and phone numbers, or just
Absolutely.
emails?
I'm free with, I'm,
Yeah.
Okay.
absolutely, give them mine.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, in alphabetical order.
In alphabetical order?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want to be at the top as chair?
Well, chairman.
Chairman's always
You
up
gotta,
top.
you gotta put chairman next to his name.
Okay.
And you know that, and
Alphabetical
vice
order.
chairman?
No, you don't need it.
Vice chairman?
That's a token job, that's not important.
Okay, so Nancy, I think, maybe we're ready to do this, and I think you could arrange to have it sent out, I guess, through,
The Alliance or
The
the
Alliance.
Castle Group? The Alliance, probably.
The Alliance, I think.
Okay.
This is the kind of thing that.
All right, I'll make these few changes, I'll send it back out to all of you first,
Mhm.
and then, I'll send it to Dave now.
Yeah.
Is Carol's
Yeah,
gone?
Dave Matthews.
David Sandlin.
Do we need to go through, our group here to send it to us?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, should go through Doug.
okay.
Okay, we can move on here. Authority for expenditure pre-approvals, again, this is my thing.
You mentioned it.
I think I sent you something, on this, and I'm, you know, I get concerned that, you know, these expenditures come up, Scott will usually bring them to me, and I think we should have some cover here, if you will. I discussed this with Tony, and so that was the development of what we said here, that in a, you know, a quote, you know, a kind of an emergency operation, that either myself or in my absence, Bob, can approve up to $10,000 in coordination with Chris. And, I don't know, Chris, you probably.
I completely support the language, but I think we've already got it built to the safeguard that whichever person here would want something done has to go through the district manager.
Yeah.
But this is still good for us.
That's good.
I mean, that's all.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have.
Sure.
Because he did that last year with Irma when we were spending money quickly to stop some of the flooding.
Okay. So, I move that we request approval from the PSCD board for the chairperson or the vice chairperson in his absence to approve expenditures up to $10,000 in effectively emergency situations. And then in full concurrence with the district manager,
I second.
and that you have to come back to the PPAC for ultimate approval and send it on the board.
A second.
Any further discussion of this? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, GSCD board meeting report. Bob, you and I sat in on the last board meeting, and I'm not sure, you know, your GIS thing was approved, you weren't there when that was done.
Yeah.
Most of the things had to do with issues that related to Gateway. Are there any things you can think of?
The only thing over and above what we had in here was the fact that the board specifically asked for the bonds work group to work with the Gateway bonds work group for the expenditures to their bond banks. And the genesis of that was that we've spent $370,000 to do 4 or 5 ponds over the last 4 years, and they're spending double that for lesser ponds.
Mhm.
So they're trying to look at other ways. So the board specifically asked us to get involved with their process. Chris, you weren't there for that, but I hope you got the word, because I've been waiting to hear. I thought it was gonna happen one day this week. And I meant to call you half a dozen times, but I haven't. I think Tetra Tech got the assignment, but they were channeling it all through you. The board was.
Right.
So whenever that group meets, that you just don't blanket Armor Max an entire pond if that's not what's needed.
Well, we're getting ready to put that standard design out to bid in November. We have the plans already for the next 6 ponds, which is at Armor Max, 57 stone on top.
Well, I guess what I thought, I heard them say, and you can check with the chairperson, but that my group would review what that group's planning on doing before it goes to bid. So we would walk the bonds and throw in our 2 cents.
Okay.
I can't imagine we're gonna materially change it, but you never know.
Well, and you
We're
never
willing
know
to
when
do
the
it.
bids come in, the amount of money, they may decide they need to just revisit the whole process.
Yeah. But we're more than willing to take a day to walk the 6 ponds and throw in our 2 cents worth. I think that'll make some of the board members more comfortable with the expenditures, because they're all getting very hinky about it. For those of you that don't know, they're currently assessed $97 a door a year at the current level of funding, or borrowing. And it could go as high as $250 to $300 per door if the current glide path is maintained for their spending. So it's got a lot of people's attention in Gateway, and that's why they asked us to look at it, since we have a record of doing it much cheaper. So that's the only thing I have over and above that.
Okay.
Phil, there was an earlier CDD meeting, and they were asking about dispensement of some bond money. I wasn't familiar with the issue, but.
Oh, I
Nancy.
was gonna bring that up, I
Great,
didn't see it
okay.
here. We talked at the last meeting that there was nothing further that we had that constituted,
Bond appropriate
bond
expenditures.
appropriate expenditures
Okay.
from the beginning, and that we wanted those funds to be used to pay down the bonds.
Okay,
That
so
should
have
have
we
been the
conveyed
message.
that to?
Tetra Tech knows that, Tony
Oh,
knows
okay,
that.
so the CDD then knows that,
Yeah.
because they asked the question at the end of their meeting, and I made a note of it, but
Well-
I didn't know what.
Yeah, that was the answer, and I specifically asked Danny if I needed to be there, and he said no. because I had a
But
question.
Tetra Tech makes that proposal to the board, it's a pro forma job.
Right.
They give the 5th amended engineering report, in which Tony adjudicates and
But they
various other
did, they
people.
gave the
They gave the
report at
report.
that meeting.
And did they approve it, or?
And it was approved. I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
That's a done deal then.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
It was approved,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't get that.
I believe it was.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions on GSCD board meetings? Bob, Ponsworth Group report.
We've spoken before about the issue of the flowway bank in the Carina neighborhoods, that whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
Tony and Phil Roedner and myself and Chris, I don't know if anybody from Tetra Tech was there, and we regurgitated this again. And it has gone back to the Carina board for a vote, either by them or them in conjunction with their citizens, whether they're gonna pursue having the bank repaired or just leave it as it is. So right now, it's in Roedner's court, and if I never hear anything again, that's be too soon. They're gonna do whatever they're gonna do, and I don't know where they're leaning, and it doesn't make any difference.
So, but if they decide to have it repaired,
And Lennar said they'll pay for it,
they'll pay for it.
yep, or have their contractor pay for it.
Mhm.
Yep. The web portal was approved last time, and it's an additional $15,000. And about the only thing we're doing with this now is to bring all the work that was done in Old Pelican, brought up to speed for everything that's happened in New Pelican. So all the Cypress Grove communities will now become a part of it. But other than that, there's nothing transformational about it, it's more a mundane and a routine. We had a lengthy discussion about whether it should be ADA compliant, and we're not gonna make it ADA compliant going forward, just because the cost is prohibitive. And I don't think that, it's gonna be a Residents Alliance website anyway. So anyway, for what it's worth,
So
although we're not.
it will not be a CDD website?
It is
It'll be an
primarily,
Alliance website?
is primarily a PPAC website. CD has access to it.
Well, if it's P-PAC, that means it's CDD. That could create an ADA
It
issue.
may, it may.
Well, it certainly could and certainly will, because the same folks are filing litigation against the CDDs.
I know that.
This are moving to HOAs and fire districts and.
But we asked them.
Special district.
At this point in time, we think we can fly below the radar. So we'll leave it at that rather than spend the money and then maybe never have to.
Just turn it over to Residents Alliance.
We can do that too.
It's not a
Except that we
CDD
paid for it.
website.
I don't know if we can give away our estimate.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, but I'm not
It is a
sure.
good idea, but it's a little tricky.
Versus paying to get it to be
Absolutely,
ADA
absolutely.
compliant.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the CDD would be very happy to give it away.
Okay, the aeration upgrades, we are doing ponds all out in Cypress Grove, 40, 41, 42, 43. And that is where Lennar put in aeration, but it wasn't our standards, and we're bringing it up. As soon as those are done, that money's been approved, and it is budgeted, then we're gonna do the next 4 or 5 as we progress all the way through Pistoia. Drains from the downspout in Pistoia and Prado. We've received our most recent affirmation that they're gonna do it, but I haven't seen the first building. Have you seen anything yet?
No, sir.
Haven't got a bill, haven't got anything, but I do have another letter saying they're gonna do it. So it's an ongoing saga, and I'm not sure where we'll end up with it.
We'll make a lap around the community tomorrow and see.
I went out yesterday, I couldn't see any evidence. Okay, I mentioned earlier, the ponds work groups have been invited to work with Gateway Pond because of the spending that they're forecast for their bank replenishment. And there is, for anyone that's interested, I have a few light pages, 40, 50 pages, that deals with the connectivity rule back from 2005 and how that thing developed. So if there's anybody that is bored out of their minds or would like to read it, I'll be happy to share.
I guess I don't know what you mean by the connectivity.
In 2005, the board made a motion and passed relative to financial participation to support the soccer fields, the Sherman.
This is not ponds.
This is
Not ponds, no, no.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry.
what everybody
I'm
confused.
That's what I
sorry.
was
I'm
wondering
sorry.
about.
He
He said
said
I
connectivity.
shifted rules and didn't
I
explain.
said, are you talking about waterways? What are you talking
My
about?
wife tells me I do
Connectivity.
that, I don't believe it. But anyway, anybody that might be interested in that minutia,
Do you have this in electronic form?
no, I have a hard copy.
You don't have a hard copy.
That might be,
Where'd you get the hard copy?
I think, from Diane, so she may have it.
If she
We could
has
scan
it.
it, send it out, we could scan it.
I was gonna.
She may have it already, I don't know.
She may have it, or we should scan it and send it.
But this is kind of one of those things like the Barry Ernst letter of
Yes.
2011 that just never dies, it always comes back.
Yes.
And it
Bill
goes away.
Rovner sent it out, Philip sent it out to everybody, us,
Grosvenor?
sent it out in electronic. You should have that, the original letter,
Oh, the original.
the original thing, yeah.
This whole package?
That whole
Not,
package?
not the whole package, but
No,
the.
again, I don't remember where it came from, but when I
Yeah.
got it, I brought it here. Just
Wouldn't
in
hurt
case.
to have it
Yeah.
sent to everybody.
I will give it to Chris then.
But, and that came from
Philip Roman.
Philip Rovner, and
What letter was this?
this was the one talking about the 2005 agreement.
Oh.
And you have it, I have it, Carol Brocky has it, Kepler has it. The whole committee, the whole advisory group should have it.
And fundamentally, it's that because we do not physically have access to Gateway Boulevard within our community, that we're excluded from participating in those things over here.
This goes back, this was Dan Warner, back at the beginning. Dan was our first Pelican representative on the CDD board. And it started with Dan, and then when he left and Carol Stanley came on board, that's when it was finalized.
The only proverbial hole in the dam, or wherever that might come up, is a construction road coming off Gateway Boulevard in the back of Pelican.
But that's been there since day one. That was there.
Well, I'm
back
just
then.
saying, if when they're done with the construction, the plans are to close that road.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And do
Correct.
that, and you may get some requests for opening it up for residents for emergency vehicles or things like that.
And we had already said that was going to happen.
No,
Emergency vehicles.
no,
Oh,
no,
Okay.
no. Tom Leonardo squashed that. That was what everybody had wanted, was to have it to be open for emergency vehicles. Tom struck a deal with, when he was our council person, struck a deal with WCI at the time, and WCI has gone ahead and they intend to have it built out and be part of it, whatever's there is part of the community, so there'd be no access across it. So
Cool.
when they're done, they're done.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's in contrast to what I heard.
Hey, what's your source?
Well, I thought I heard Carol at one of the Alliance meetings state that they were going to keep an access road, strictly construction type roads for Gateway, to have their
Utility.
equipment and utilities get access to their part of Pelican Preserve for their utilities. And it could be used as an emergency, since we don't have an emergency.
I don't think so. Carol's been trying to get us a second exit out of the community. She was looking at getting into the Arborwood.
Arborwood.
And that was.
Yeah, I don't know where I heard from, but I heard the same thing, Jody.
Yeah.
Eleanor shut it down.
Yeah, the connectivity, I mean, it's an old, you could always change it too, but obviously from our standpoint, if we have a water line break or something happens to come all the way to the tree line to get to the backside of the community.
Not very efficient.
No, and if somebody has an ambulance or emergency in Prado or something back there, same thing, you know, they're coming from tree line, even though you'll soon have a fire station on Gateway Boulevard, you know, right over here.
Feel like
South
that.
Trail's putting another one, but it's just something that, you know,
Well,
the conversation might come up.
It's something that, it's set right now in the DRI of the city.
Right.
It would take an amendment to the DRI
Okay, that's
to get
the
that
same.
changed.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm not proposing any change, we'll work around it, that's just
Well,
something that it might come
You
up
know,
in conversation.
I agree that it would have been desirable, it was something that we were very much in favor of, and Tom was striking his own bargains at that time, and he did away with it.
Nancy, I'm showing my ignorance here, do you have that letter,
Which one?
the one that you said we should all have copies of?
Do I have it? No, Bob has it.
This is the.
No, no.
word stuff.
Oh, it's.
Not
The letter
DRI.
is in there?
The
No, I
letter
didn't
that
think
she's talking about?
Not the letter, the
DRI.
agreement with the,
Oh, it's an agreement.
it's an agreement, the
Oh,
CBD
that's part,
passed a resolution or something about it, yeah.
But that agreement really impacts the DRI, correct?
No, we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
You're talking about the connectivity that is shut down, which Dan and Carol.
Yeah, that's
the
the-
board, and everybody agreed that as long as we were not connected. And one thing that everybody needs to keep in mind, at the time that that was put in place, all of Gateway Boulevard, it included, we were exempted from the roads, which have now been turned over to the county,
Yeah.
and then all of the amenities. The roads would have been a huge part. The amenities, unless they decide to build a huge complex, I'm not sure how much that would impact us, but.
Less than $20 a house a week.
that's right, I mean, that was in Ed Tinkle's, the thing he just sent out.
But
Yeah.
that was how much each of their households would save a year.
Save, but-
Which means ours would be about triple.
Yeah.
No, not really, no. It's much
But
less
that
than
was only for the soccer fields. If you read what he wrote, that was only for the
Soccer fields, that's correct.
But
Well,
not-
I don't know what he did, but I worked with Michael Kraft to separate out what it would cost us if we took the soccer field, swimming pools, administration and all that, and it was under $30.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big number.
It is not a big
And
number.
the idea that we should take their roads.
No, the roads have now been turned over to the county.
Right.
So, but at the time,
Well-
that was done, it included the roads and all of the
And
amenities.
Brand keeps mentioning roads. That's one of the things he.
Well, one, the big thing he's looking for,
Yes,
and I'm not espousing his views, but he specifically mentioned the pond bank repairs, the 26 million.
yes.
And then, and stormwater cleaning, which is up to the $1 million. That's what he wants to share.
Yeah, well, and his thing says, his thing also says roads.
Yeah, he wants
Okay,
to.
whatever. The real money's on those things, but there's no precedent for doing that. I can't imagine that could ever happen. But anyway, that's why we should vote for it.
But the thing I'm talking about as far as the development order for
Right.
our community got changed a couple of different times. And one of the original things, when Jim Humphrey was mayor, and we worked with him on it, and we were going to have one of those gates that opened up in the case of an emergency, and there'd be a back exit, and that there would be inability for ambulances and fire trucks to come across it, very much like a couple of other communities here. Back when there were, I forget what the negotiations were at the time that were going on, Tom Leonardo, whom we all felt should have been representing the community, didn't in that respect. He went ahead with WCI's consent or whatever and agreed, and had the city change the DRI so that there would be no permanent exit from our community once the construction was done. So in order to get that for residents to use and for emergency vehicles, if there's not a house in the way, and I have no idea how they're building that out, then that would take a change in the development order.
And it's built out with a fence along the back, and then there's a roadway between the landfill and the fence, so it would have to be green space or something.
Yeah, so
not
there's
much
really-
room for housing or anything
So,
back there.
so there's really not the ability to do it.
So what Leonardo did impacted the DRI. This has nothing to do with the DRI, it's just gateway.
It made it permanent that there would be no connection.
The DRI does.
The DRI does.
Yeah, but that has a lot more legal force than this.
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay,
Bob, any?
that's it, that's all I've got.
Anything more, any questions of Bob? Safety and Security Work Group, the first thing I would like is to talk about the track gate. I sent you all what the recommendation of the Safety and Security Work Group is, and that is that we eliminate the track gate and use it as a backup for the entrance gate. We recognize that there is the problem of cars tailgating, but we don't think that's a large problem, and we think there are other things that offset that. So your discussion about this.
Well, it hasn't been an issue because you can't do it as far as tailgating. The reason we put the trap gate in, it was a significant issue when we put it in.
Well, there was a period when the track gate was not there,
Right.
and
Oh, yeah, it's been broken off and on, but people are conditioned that they expect it to be there. I'm just not sure what the benefit of taking it out is. I mean, it was
well,
put in for a reason, it's been very effective.
We tried to list the reasons on this.
I noticed you don't list any benefits, the reason you did.
Huh?
I noticed you didn't list any benefits.
Well, the benefit of leaving it in is you get rid of the tailgating.
Sure.
Well, not only the tailgating is
But
only
you
a
don't,
symptom
that
of the
still
issue.
happens.
The issue is unauthorized access.
Yes.
In the past, that was an issue in our
Yeah.
community.
Mhm.
That we put that in, and that issue went away.
It did not go away.
Well, I don't know that it went away.
No, it
Well,
did
that
not
part
go
of it,
away.
they don't tailgate
I
through there
personally
anymore.
see it often.
I have a comment on that.
And we didn't even get, excuse me, but we didn't even get a majority, yes, we could take it out. It's 50-50. Why would we change something if we're comfortable with?
And I have had two people tell me when it was up for that month or so, that somebody tried to follow them in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you,
That's a guarantee, I did it every time.
Well,
I
that's
intentionally
one-
tailgated
That's one
every
reason
single
to
time.
keep the trap gate there, so Gepper can't get on my.
No,
property.
but I'm just telling you, that's the result of it.
Have you ever looked at increasing the speed of those
I'm
gates?
leaving the packets.
They are very slow. I remember driving around the expressways of Chicago, man, that gate would go boop, boop, it was that quick. These go up slow and they come down slower. The trap gate right now is, my wife complains constantly because the trap gate's not coming down very quickly or kind of teeters. I know one resident said he got halfway through and it came down on his car. That was about a month ago. But it
Oh,
doesn't
it's
seem
too
to be
slow then.
consistent. I think they're both, I think they're all too slow. And if you look at the operation speed of the gate by the guardhouse, it's much faster than the gates on the other side that are on the trap gate. I think there should be faster operating speeds for it. I mean, it's gotta be available.
That's certainly something to look at if we decide to keep them. But right now, this is whether to keep them.
But I'm not in favor of the trap gate, but I know a lot of folks are.
Would you object if we open it up to the audience for comment?
No, I wouldn't object to that at all.
Anybody would like to come up and make a comment about the trap gate?
Absolutely.
I know you'd have something to
She's
say.
open and she can bounce it over there.
I hate that stupid gate. And Bob, I'm sorry to
Please introduce
disagree with you.
yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Trudy Fletcher, resident of Trieste. And I personally often see tailgaters going through the trap gate, because the first car will come in and they're way over to this side, they wait for the first one to come up, then they go in and the car behind them is on the left-hand side, they can get through, and then they get their nose right in, so both of them go through the second gate. So, in my opinion, you know, from seeing it, and I've lived here a long time, way before we ever had the gates, that it has not solved the problem. It may have lessened it. It has absolutely not solved the problem. The other thing that I see in
If I
that,
could ask you one question, what was
Sure.
the problem?
Tailgating.
You said
tailgating, the one you said it
tailgating
eliminated
is a
the.
consequence, what they do is unauthorized admittance was the reason it was put in.
No, but she's saying it's not solving the problem of unauthorized admittance.
Oh, I think it's, okay.
It may have lessened it. It has not solved it, because I still see it happening. I mean, they still piggyback, whatever you wanna call it, you know, two cars going through at the same time. It is a real concern. I think one of the things that I saw in your rationale is, you know, cars come in, and particularly if they're lined up, you know, on the resident side, and you see them, you know, and they kind of,
Doing the
and then the guest lane opens up, and they make a beeline, and if you look behind, there's probably 5 cars that are all doing the same thing, so then you become a racetrack, all jockeying for position to get over to where the guests go through.
It's like
So
the shopping
that's-
cart lane.
Exactly,
open.
it is, exactly. But, so I see that happening. There was one other point, and now it escaped me because I spent too much time on this. Anyway, you probably all know, I've been a strong opponent of the trap gate system from the very beginning. If someone's gonna get in, they're gonna get in. And the trap gate may lessen, you know, some of the problems that are either real or perceived, but it certainly doesn't eliminate it. And as we grow, and as we see, particularly with the stoplight now, you see in season, the cars that are backing up their times. When last season, when we were, you know, still 200 people short from what we are now, that the line goes out to tree line and backed up beyond the stoplight. So I think we're facing more than just some safety issues, or some, in addition to some of the other issues, some practical issues, we're facing some safety issues with having the cars back up because people can't get through the gate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are all the arguments.
No, there's another one.
Yeah, Don?
Don Bickle, Pelican Preserve. Got a question on the trap gate. Trap gate slows traffic down tremendously. I agree with everything that was just said here. As the community grows, got 3,000 homes, you're gonna have additional traffic coming in and out continuously. I've also noticed I almost got hit once going out of Pelican Preserve because the person coming in didn't want to wait in line and came head-on to the out gate that was opening up and just came in that way. Came real close to hitting me. So personally, I think the out gate ought to be on the same as the other gate. But I do agree with the comment that was made. Maybe we can address the speed of only the trap gate. If you get rid of the trap gate, the other gate, increase the speed a little bit, and then keep the other gate also in a closed position. That's my opinion on that.
Thank you, Don. Okay,
I will just refresh the one story that led to the trap gate. We had a gentleman who had his golf clubs taken out of his golf cart at the golf driving range. It was a white Monte Carlo, came into the community, drove up to the golf cart parking lot, the gentleman got out of the car, went down to the golf cart, loaded the clubs into his vehicle and left, and there was no record of the guy. Everybody knew who it was by sight, and that's what led to the trap gate and all the cameras and all the recording. If we choose to eliminate it, so be it. But don't forget why it was put in. There was a reason.
Yeah.
We've all gotten used to it now. We're all, normal. Okay, there are a few times when it backs up. We're not talking about a lot of time one way or the other. But
From a technical standpoint, I wanted to bring this to your attention. I was thinking, we had the trap gate up for quite a period of time, and I know I just started using that gate when the other gate had somebody in it, because my assumption was people by the guardhouse were looking for directions, using their pass to get in, whatever. The trap gate at that time was quicker. But once the trap gate started being used again, my question was, could we go back and find out what the increase in traffic was at the gate by the guardhouse versus what the trap gate was? My thinking is, and it's not scientific, but my logic says, the minute you started using the trap gate again and it wasn't convenient for people to come through quicker, they started going back through to the guardhouse side. And I would suspect, and I can't prove it, I would suspect that more people are now going through the guard side of the gates because it's quicker, and they can almost pull up, that gate goes up and it goes down, and they're through real quick. But I don't know if we have any way, I had talked to Scott about that, but I don't know if there's not a way,
there's not-
traffic flow has
Do
changed.
you wanna come up and make a comment?
Yeah, I spoke with Judy at the
Wait,
gate.
would you please come up and introduce yourself?
we want to memorialize your testimony.
When he's coming up, I thought it'd be neat to make two passes, one for the trap gate side, and for the people that like the trap gate, and one for the other side that don't.
Well, we
Yes.
can go through
Okay.
either side.
Jerry Marquis, and I live on Tiberio. I spoke with Judy at the gate recently, and she said that since the gate has been down, the number of cars coming in is significant coming in on the guard side.
Thank you.
But is that a problem for any reason?
Yeah.
No, it's
Because they
just
know their
the-
residents.
They've got a reader there for our cars to go right through.
I don't see it.
The reason
But
the
they're not
traffic.
using the trap gate side, they're gonna use
Oh, absolutely.
the guard side.
The path of least resistance.
Right.
Because they
it's
need you to-
faster.
But why is that a problem?
It's not a problem, I was just curious as to, we had a traffic pattern and flow, and because you had one gate on each side, people were more inclined to go through where the trap gate had been working. It wasn't working, so you had one gate, so they were happy and contented to go through it. Once the trap gate was put back into operation, people started going through where the guardhouse is, which does create a potential problem, because you're gonna have people lined up there thinking they're going through, and then you got the person who stops and needs to get their driver's license and so forth. So,
Well, you make
I
your
mean,
choice.
That's right, that's a risk you know you're taking when you.
Well,
Yeah.
it is the risk, but that also then goes back to Phil's comment, you got people vacillating, people come in and they slow down immediately, and they start seeing which lane's going faster, and, oh, this guy got through, boom.
You're trying to
It
legislate
becomes a
stupidity, Joe.
madhouse.
Trying to legislate stupidity.
Well, thank you.
Not only
can't
that,
legislate
not
stupid.
only that, by having the gate on the outgoing side where the guard shack is, the guards have told me there's a lot of times that cars just go flying right through there.
Absolutely.
Someone is gonna get hit.
Oh, with the gate not being down, you mean?
That
No, no, no.
The
Even
one
next to the
being
guardhouse.
down on the outgoing side next to the guard shack,
Outgoing.
Closest to
Yeah.
the guard shack.
my opinion, that should be down, because somebody's gonna get hit, because the people in Pelican do not obey the rules.
Okay.
There's
Thank
a
you.
reason why the second gate exiting is sometimes Securitas has their car parked in that.
Yes.
They're not supposed to.
They're
Never.
supposed to.
That should be open all
Should
the
never
time,
be there,
shouldn't it?
and we call it
Well,
every time it
with
happens.
the,
Well,
with
with
the
the
gate
gate
down.
down.
With the gate down, but we should
Activated.
have two
Right.
exit
Yeah.
gates, and I only ever use one.
Are there any other communities that have double gates?
Absolutely, that's how we came from it. We asked security, give us recommendations on what we ought to do after the golf club
Well,
incident. The
Well,
theft.
you gotta get rid of it. I agree with this lady and I agree with Dylan. Gotta go.
Scott, do you have any further comments on that?
Be careful, Scott.
It's a no-win, I mean, you know.
And, well,
For him, it's a no-win.
For all of us, really.
you're gonna have to make a decision. And what I'd recommend, whatever your decision is, you stick with it and go with it. And not let the outside comments sway you from making another change. I've been here for 4 months and we've changed it twice.
You should be
So-
here for 10 years and see how often it comes up.
Well, and the thing is, you know, more often than not, exit gates are left open during the day to save on wear and tear. And then they're closed after the business of the day. But you gotta keep in mind what a section of road we have, the distance. And people fly out of the exit. And we have camera proof on that with the individuals hitting the exit gate. So you have the gates, you either use the gates or you don't use the gates. If you have a trap gate, you have a trap gate there for a reason, whatever the reason is. Unauthorized entrance, tailgating, whatever it might be. Use a trap gate, just gonna have to realize that it's gonna be slow, you're gonna have a backup in season, and that's the cost of having a trap gate. Gotta weigh is, do we have that much trouble with unauthorized entrance or tailgating in the community to use the trap gate? If that is really a concern and a reality, then keep it working. If it's not, use it as a backup. But, you know, you're right, it's,
Yeah.
one way,
I know some people
whatever way
clearly-
you do it.
Clearly don't like it, otherwise it wouldn't keep coming up.
Whatever way you do it, it's not gonna work, but I can tell you, with dealing with other communities, I know a lot of them put in the gate arms because they have these big iron gates. And those really wear out and are expensive to deal with, so they leave those closed at night, and during the day, they use their gate arms. We don't have the big decorative gates, so we use our gate arms.
Let me ask you a quick question. How would you use that trap gate as a backup? I've heard it mentioned.
Oh,
What do we mean by that?
What that means is, let's say somebody damaged the front gate to a point that it wasn't, or it just burned out. We just put it in the up position and then activate the trap gate, and then the trap gate would
It
serve
would work
as the
same
main
way
gate.
Yeah.
As the front gate?
It would serve as a backup.
If you trip it with your barcode,
Yeah.
then it'll do it.
Okay.
So I mean, that's how you would use that. So I mean, it doesn't go to waste. It's there as a backup for entry on the resident side. So,
We spent
Okay,
a
I
lot of
would-
money
I would-
installing it.
Oh, yeah.
but you're still gonna be slower this year than last year. Because the guards are checking the photo IDs, and if you're up there